Hello and welcome to MM Unpacked, our first episode where we bring the editorial team together to talk about everything within financial services, everything we've been covering. And today I'm joined by Tom and Dan, but I will let you guys introduce yourselves a bit more.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Dan Cooper. I'm news editor at Money Marketing, so I oversee the news team.
I'm Tom Browne. I'm editor of Money Marketing, so I oversee everything.
Wow.
Basically.
And I just realized I didn't introduce myself. I'm Kim, and I'm digital content manager, and I manage digital things. All things digital. And so in this episode, as we are talking about all things digital, we do have to talk about how after a great 40-year run, Money Marketing has come to an end in terms of print, just in the print edition, and what that means. So, Tom, do you want to talk about it a bit?
Yeah, it's a poignant day in a way, in the sense that Money Marketing, which is celebrating its 40th anniversary this September, first published in September 1985, has been a print magazine, initially weekly, then it went monthly. And yes, we've published our final print issue, which was in June. And in a way, it was inevitable it was going to happen this way because I think more and more of our audience is just consuming our stuff online. I think a lot of people were actually not aware that the print issue was still going. And in a way, when you do a print issue and it's a monthly issue, it has long lead times. And we were a bit concerned that a lot of the stuff that we were working on was nearly out of date, but by the time it was printed, I mean, not entirely, but this is an incredibly fast moving sector. And we wanted to do more different types of feature, more different types of news analysis, and with the team that we've got. And we thought that going fully digital will allow us to react much more quicker to the news cycle. So we've taken it. It's not really an ending. It's more a beginning.
Yeah.
We have used it to expand our offering. We're getting new sections, things like off the record and spotlight and things like that. And we're doing more on the podcast side as well. And, just to try and, increase our palette basically. So, we're a month into it, and I'm very pleased with the new sections. I'm very pleased with the things that we've run, some of which we'll talk about in this episode. So it's au revoir to print and bon voyage, I was about to say to bonjour. Bonjour to the digital offering, and, always eager to hear how people are reacting to it.
Yeah. Well, off that, I wanted to know if you have seen any initial reactions, if there have been any, or people just thought, I always thought you were a digital, because we have quite a lot on our digital footprint anyway.
Yeah.
So do you think there is a massive shift, or?
I think it's evolution rather than revolution. I mean, we don't see it in any way as shrinking what we're doing. And quite the opposite, actually. We want to expand what we're doing. So we're still doing some of the stuff that we used to do in print. So we're still doing interview features. We're still doing long, deep dive features, one of which we'll talk about today. So all the stuff that people enjoyed in the print magazine, the leaders, the in focuses, the coalface stuff, the expert commentary, that is all still there. We're just doing more of it, and we hope we're doing it in a more topical way. So I would hope that if you do notice a change, you'll notice it, that it's a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more up to the minute. That's certainly, as an editor, that's certainly my ambition.
Yeah. And you talked a little bit about what the audience can look forward to seeing. Do you want to touch on some of those sections that we have coming up or that are already out there?
Well, we have a wonderful section which I think was coined by my predecessor, Katie Pigden, called MM Meets, which is an interview piece. And that's so popular with the industry. We get endless people saying, can we do an MM Meets? Can we do an MM Meets? And
I think it's one of those things where you haven't made it until you've been on MM Meets.
It's much like an Oscar. It's that kind of thing, And we realised that we had more demand for MM Meets than we could fulfil. So we've got a new interview section now called Off the Record, which is not only it's a more sort of shorter and focused interview, so print version of the interview or online version of an interview, but it expands away from just the CEOs and what have you that we generally do for MM Meet. So it's sort of like, well, they have an interesting perspective, but lots of people in the advice space have interesting perspectives, and it's trying to give those people a bit more of a platform and unlock wider conversations. So we've put that in place. We're hoping to do more in-person interviews on this show as well in the podcast space. Mm-hmm. So we were definitely stymied by the limited number of interviews that we were doing in the past. Obviously, we interview people for background, for features all the time, but to actually spotlight them on the website, I'm quite excited about. Yeah.
And Dan, as news editor, is this something that's in line with what you saw or what you were envisioning for the digital leap?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Because, what we want to do in money marketing is kind of be the point of call for advisors. So, breaking news is important, of course. You have to react to stuff that's happening and stuff that's coming in, appointments and industry news and so on. But what we really want to do here is kind of focus on some of the longer form content and, actually advisors come to money marketing and see value and actually get behind. So we do, behind the headlines, for example. And that's our way of, unpacking a particular subject and really sort of, hate that term, but deep diving into it.
I used
it. I had to.
It's the only way to explain it.
It is a deep dive.
It's either that or delve.
Delve.
And all of those are AI terms now. So
exactly.
What can we do?
Exactly. What can you do? So yeah, it's, just our way of unpacking a particular subject, saying what does it mean for advisors? How will it affect them? What are the pain points? So on. So yeah, we really want to be that kind of knowledge, a fountain of knowledge, if you like, where advisors can come and really, read in detail into a particular subject that affects them.
Yeah, and to pick that up, it's very well to sort of what breaking news is something that's sort of instant, is happening day to day, and the features are more long form and considered. But using that precise section behind the headlines, it's like we wanted to be in a position where we could react quicker to stories and get beneath the headlines. And so it may be that we have a story about a particular subject that's breaking, but we want to put a reaction piece out. We want to cover the story, but then we want to do an analysis piece and maybe put that out a week later. And being totally digital, there's a lot less sort of like, well, what needs to go in the magazine? What doesn't need to go in the magazine? If we put that in the magazine, it won't come out for another month or what have you. So we hope that that will serve our audience well, because they Dan uses the phrase pain points, another along with deep dives, another overused phrase, but it is important, that what IFA pain points are is really, where our primary focus should be as an editorial team, and hopefully that will allow us to focus in on it far more.
And focusing in on one of those potential pain points, or maybe something that will fix those pain points. I think both of you have been alluding to this. So Dan, you have kind of been focusing on the FCA's targeted support plan.
I have, yeah, all 200 pages of it, yeah.
Amazing work for you to do that on a Friday morning. Was it Friday?
It was a Friday morning, yeah.
I was on holiday, brilliant.
That's right, yeah. You were off. So
you were off that Friday. I was oblivious. I just left you to it. But for those who may not be aware and haven't read those 200 pages, could you briefly explain what this is?
Sure. Well, in short, it's the FCA's attempt to try and kind of plug this advice gap that we so regularly hear about. And obviously, there were only 8.6% of the UK population
getting advice,
access financial advice last year, and that dial's barely moved since kind of COVID, since 2020. In fact, I think if anything, it's slightly gone down. So clearly, there's a need to get people access to financial advice, make better financial decisions about their retirement, their future. So this is kind of the FCA's attempt at doing that, and what I looked at in one of our new topic areas that Tom was talking about on the website. So obviously it was like the cover feature in the magazine. It's now called the big picture. So I looked at that for the big picture, and will it help close the advice gap? First of all, and answers vary. I won't give too much away because obviously you can read the full thing. But what I think what the industry recognises is the need to do something, and the industry recognises that this is, although it's not a silver bullet as some have said, it is like a really concerted attempt to actually do something. And they estimate that I think it's 12 million customers who are kind of underinvesting at the moment might get better guidance to invest their money in a different way. People who aren't saving enough for their pension, or aren't making correct decisions about their pensions, they might get help. So it's like they're calling it once in a generation reform that will help millions and millions of people to get access to guidance. Because at the moment, we all know about finfluencers, we all know about unregulated advice and scams and so on. So there's so much information out there.
Yeah. And
people who can't afford advice are obviously going to, these sources and potentially risk everything.
Yeah.
So the FCA had to do something, and it did say it wasn't the primary driver. And it was in the back of their mind, I think is the way they said it. It was in the back of their mind when they were introducing targeted support, all of these points I mentioned. Obviously the primary thing is to help get people more support.
Yeah.
So it works the way that they're kind of proposing is that it's it enables advisors, banks, insurers to say group customers into kind of like segments.
Okay.
And then give them guidance based on, so you could say like somebody like you as an example, somebody in your position might
at your life stage,
might want to do something like this, or might want to consider doing this. Okay. So it's not full advice, but we all know it's not going to be full advice
for everyone.
But but the question is, which is what I look at in the big picture, is how many advice firms will actually take this up? Because it's been widely praised across the sector. I think the FCA deserve a lot of credit for that. We don't always give them credit, and neither does the industry. But they have consulted with the industry, and largely these proposals have been welcomed by all. But what my question was is, what will the take up be? Because when you look at, this is a service that the FCA have said most firms have indicated they'll offer it for free.
Okay.
Or at a very, very low cost, between sort of £100 and £180. So talking about like minimal amounts, if anything at all. And when you consider you got you have to go through, firms that want to offer targeted support will have to go through authorization, like Part 4A, I think it is. So obviously that takes time. You've got the upfront costs of bringing that in. Then you've got, the ongoing costs, you've got staff training, you've got compliance, governance, you've got IT systems that will need upgrading, you need potentially internal systems. There's so many kind of different, when you think you've got all of these upfront costs, all of these ongoing costs to provide a service for free.
Yeah.
How many advice firms are actually going to do that? I think for the bigger players like SJP, they said they are considering it, haven't made a decision yet. Quilter, I think, have at least indicated that they probably will. So for those bigger players that have got, more money and more resource, and they're able to cross-subsidize, paying clients to offer a service for free, that might work for them.
Yeah.
But I think for your typical like average smaller advice firm, particularly sort of mid to small, I just don't see how, with all the regulation, all of the tech, and everything else they've got, going on at the moment, to have this on top, I just don't see how it's really feasible. That's so I think the banks, for example, they've got massive kind of like pools of data on their customers already. So and I think it's more targeted towards banks, insurers, platforms, people who have this data already. Yeah. And they can see, for example, if a bank sees a customer's got £30,000 in cash, they could use targeted support and say, well, look, maybe that you can move some of that 30,000 out of cash and consider putting some in investments, for example. Yeah. So I think it will work for for the bigger players, but I'm just not so sure on
Smaller.
the small. No.
Mm. When you explained it like that, it just made me think of, this is all from TV knowledge. But like lawyers have like pro bono, they have pro bono hours.
Yeah.
So could it be something like that where as a qualified chartered financial advisor, you'd be required to do a certain amount of hours a year?
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I haven't really
support.
Or they could use it as a funnel to get sort of people into the world of advice and then sort of like into sort of like full fat advice later. Who knows? There are a lot of people out there, under advised people who just think financial advice is not for them. It's not necessarily that it isn't for them. Yeah, but they're just not part of that world. I mean, as Dan says, I mean, the FCA get a lot of brickbats, around this part, but this is a very impressive piece of work by them, and it is responding to a sort of a demand that has been all the time I've been sort of working around this kind of like this area. It's been constantly talked about. Yeah. But I mean, the consultate is out for consultation now, and as always, the devil will be in the details. Something sounds very, very impressive in the short term, but it's a question of like, how much difference will this really genuinely make to the advice landscape? And time will tell is another one of the phrases we often use. But Dan's, and bless Dan, because I mean, he really did get messed over by the fact that this all came out on Friday and I was not around. You were texting me sort of saying, my God, massive story. And I was like, oh no, I had a day off. What's all this about? And then realized sort of how seismic it was. And actually going back to the digital versus print thing, we had another big long feature ready to go, which will remain nameless for now. And we basically junked it and said, no, we're going to do the big picture on this because this is far, far, far more topic. We wouldn't have had as much capacity to do that in the past. Yeah. No. But it's a huge and potentially, very, very seismic issue. But for all the reasons that Dan has gone into, it's sort of like, well, let's see how this shakes out as the consultation goes on and, as we start moving into 2026. But it's impacts so many different areas. Every ideas meeting we've had since these proposals, at some point a sentence comes in, well, what impact will targeted support have on that, or have on that, and have on that? It's a big conversation to have.
Do you think it'll have bigger impact than the consumer duty had?
I think it'd be very different. As I mentioned before, I don't know how much of an impact it will have on the majority of advice firms. You consider there are, I think it's around 5,000 still at the moment. And, quite a big chunk of those are smaller firms, which I don't think will offer the service. Right. So I don't, as a sector, I don't think it will have anywhere near the same level of impact as the Consumer Duty had, because that was, very much affected every single advice firm. Whereas this, I think, will only kind of be taken up by a small number. So I think, consumer duty in that respect, I think was kind of more seismic. But in terms of the number of people that this will help, or could help,
I think in the case of consumer duty as well, it wasn't how seismic consumer duty was. I don't think was necessarily immediately apparent to everyone in the industry. I think once it was demonstrated that the FCA were really going to enforce this and really going to show their teeth, then people started going, oh, okay, fine. Well, this is going to involve quite a bit of work. They mean business. So this is going to involve quite a bit of work on our part and what have you. But now that has sunk in, and let's not forget, it is the second year anniversary of consumer duty this year. And we've actually just published a piece, quick plug, on that on the website about, the ongoing implications of consumer duty. But obviously that's a discussion for another day. Yes. So, yeah. Just shows how busy the FCA have been in the last couple of years.
And advisors. What I thought was interesting was Tom's point about, the FCA have mentioned it in their 200 pages. And the potential for someone to get targeted support. I think this is great, see, oh, wow, I never knew all of this. I'm getting help, and then using that as a stepping stone to potentially full fat advice later down the line, which, will benefit advice firms. Yeah. But the other argument of that is that the average wealth of a targeted support customer, according to the FCA, is anywhere between kind of 29,000 and 45,000 of assets. Okay. So the issue, I think, is, at that point, say a a target support customer wanted to then go and take full fat advice. The issue you have there is that at the moment, we all know that a client isn't considered profitable by most advisors unless they have £250,000 of investable assets or more.
Okay.
So if that targeted support customer has 29 to 45,000, even if they want the advice, are they going to be able to get it? Because our advisors going to be able to serve them profitably? Probably not. So
is there a potential of that their money growing from them,
from the targeted support? I suppose there is that argument. Yeah, if you make a good decision based on the guidance you get through targeted support, then of course your investments, your money might grow, and then eventually,
by the time you're in retirement age, which is when most advisors typically serve most customers, then you would have those 250,000 plus assets, and you have a growing client pool that way.
But I suppose, I think you're completely right. But for target, I think for we also need to focus on, and it's a different subject completely. And another big issue for the sector is that trying to, maybe with AI, maybe with technology, maybe through other means, bringing down the cost of advice and trying to get it down so that a client with 100k or 50k is profitable in future. I think if target support works, and people grow the money, and then the work goes on behind the scenes to keep using tech to reduce the burden, to bring down the cost. If those two things gel and match up, then I think eventually maybe we will see more and more people accessing advice.
When you said investable assets, does that mean like liquid, or does that mean just like invest, your entire?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
that's
something to aspire to.
It's about 245 more than I've got.
Yeah. Don't expose yourself. That's crazy. I was just saying that's something to aspire to for me. Okay, now I know
I'm me.
What I need to get to. But referencing something that you talked about earlier, Tom, which was, would targeted support be something that could get people into the profession? So we have also been talking about, mentorship and work experience within financial advice, but we've also had people doing work experience at money marketing.
We did,
So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, we had a couple of students in year 12 students in doing work experience. We'd had a year 12 student the previous year in for work experience. And it's a small thing, work experience. You can't ever really do anything more than slightly gesture towards, what you do when you're working on a publication. And quite often people are busy, they're overstretched, and you can end up sort of saying, "Oh, do you have anything for the work experience to do, or what have you?" But still and all, I think even if you have people in, I generally find it's a positive experience for both parties, because they just like seeing the world of work. It's a break from the norm for them. And also, I think it gives the people who are running the work experience, it gives them a different perspective as well. Because my kid is only 2, so I've no idea what sort of like teenagers are like these days. I'm not a teacher or anything like that.
Yeah.
So in ordinary day-to-day interactions, I don't spend that much talking to sort of 17 or 18-year-olds. And if you're working on a specialist subject like finance, it is genuinely interesting to get their perspectives on it, or indeed their perspectives on journalism and the media and what have you, and what they're thinking. So I think it's fruitful from both points of view, and I think that it has wider implications in terms of what we were always talking about. We talked about it for targeted support, the whole issue of the advice gap, but also the advisor gap. Not enough people going into financial advice as a profession, and partly that's because the awareness of it as a profession is very, very low. We know this. People don't think about it in the way they think about medicine or law or accountancy.
Yeah. Or becoming a streamer.
I wouldn't wish that on anyone. It's kind of like, well, how many advice firms do offer sort of like work experience place? How open are they to it? How could they benefit from it, as well as the work experience people benefit from it? Because I think it's all very well saying, well, young people aren't interested in financial advice as a profession. Because like, how interested is the financial advice profession in young people? I mean, we hear a lot about, from the recruitment end of point of view, that, you know, that people are very reluctant to sort of take on young people as sort of trainee advisors, because they're worried that, you know, they'll either spend all their time, they're expensive to train up, and when they are trained up, they might get poached by someone else, or, you know, do young people have the life experience to advise older clients? I mean, that's an old canard, which I actually did a separate feature on, which is actually nonsense. Every single young advisor, quote unquote, I spoke to said they've never experienced that problem.
Yeah.
And the clients don't mind. And it's just a myth that's kind of floats around there because it sounds plausible, but it isn't. And I just think that, I mean, we've done a new section, or we've started a new section online. This is another legacy of us coming out of print, called Starting Out.
Yeah.
And that incorporates all the conversations that we were previously having online and on print around young people. So first person perspectives of people who are just qualified or just going through the qualification process, or, you know, people's first-hand experiences, or things that people need to know, or, you know, and sharing their experiences. It's all under the banner now of Starting Out, and we're doing that every week, that piece. And it's also that these pieces are all being republished on our sister website, Future Financial Advisor, which again has a lot of tips for people who are interested in going into financial advice, and has forums and what have you. So it's part of a broader conversation of, you know, people talk about young people in the abstract, but I think unlocking those conversations, meeting young people in the wild, you know, like really do genuinely facilitating conversations with young people, giving them opportunities, and being open to learn from them as well. I can't believe I'm saying all of this, you know. I don't generally seek out the conversations with young people, but I think it can be a proper education to do so.
No, I think it can help, right? Because if you're looking for a wider client base as well, you might need to switch up your approach. And we're talking about things like AI and how to incorporate those in businesses. And maybe you want someone who is born a digital native who might be able to help with those implementations.
That's all very easy for you to say.
Yeah, that was. But just from even starting out as an administrator, which I think I've spoken to people in the past who have come into financial advice, because financial advice is one of those professions that you just fall into by accident because you were referred to it, or it was on your local high street and you went and did a work experience, which one person did, and started as an admin there, worked their way up to power planner, and then became a financial advisor. And I think that's kind of how it goes within financial advice at the moment, although, you know, situations like Future Financial Advisor or even the Verve Foundation are trying to change that and make it more of an active career. You go into knowing what your path is going to be and what different places within financial advice you can sit in.
That's another thing about work experience, isn't it? It does, you know, enable you to kind of get a taster for not just the world of work, but for that line of, you know, for that sector, for that industry. And so if it is for you, because, you know, you don't want to, I'll say waste your time, but, you know, for one of the reasons that Tom and I are both quite sort of keen to get people in where we can is because, you know, we've both benefited from it. Ourselves, you know, when we were starting out in journalism, I'm speaking for you now, Tom. Sorry.
No.
For me personally, you know, when I started out, you know, I knew that I wanted to write for a living. I didn't necessarily know it was going to be journalism, but I knew I wanted to write. So I did have a pretty clear indication. And then, you know, that week that I had at my local paper really kind of cemented that view for me and said, yeah, that's what I want to be doing. And then on top of that, it gave me that kind of experience that I could then go when I went to courses. You know, I could show that I was keen. I could show that I've done something, you know. And I think that's why another reason it's really important, because, you know, you can give young people that taste of financial advice. And yes, for some reason it might put some off. I don't know, but it can also make someone go, actually, yeah,
you can find really where you fit in,
exactly.
Whether you want to be client facing or you want to be a power planner and kind of deal with numbers, because that's better for you.
Yeah. No, I 100%. And I certainly wrote to just about everywhere asking for work experience or, some opportunities and what have you. And I really noticed the people who would provide those opportunities, but would also, go the extra mile, not just sort of say, okay, could you file these papers or get me coffee or something, but would actually sort of say, okay, we'd like you to work on a story and this. And it's initially quite frightening. If you do your first story and it's like, right, call this and this and cool people, what?
Yeah.
But I remember that buzz of writing my first story from scratch and seeing it in print,
right,
and thinking that's amazing. Yeah. Well, now seeing it online now, is it now? But it was that real buzz of, my God, they've actually published something under my byline, and I can see it here. And I don't think I've ever totally. I still feel that when I see something of mine in print.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the equivalent for sort of like financial services would be, but it's that sort of. I think, empowering people, basically.
Yeah. I think from the stories when I talk to financial advisors, it's always how they've made an impact on their clients' lives, and also for the paraplanners, knowing that they've made an impact on someone's life as well.
Yeah.
But I wanted to share my complete reverse experience from you two, where you had really positive experiences with your work experience. No, because I initially wanted to be a doctor. So when I did my work experience, I went to East Surrey Hospital, and I did different days in different departments. I was in cardiology for a while, and I kind of shadowed a junior doctor who actively was like, don't choose medicine.
Really?
I think, you don't know the hours that it takes and the years that it takes initially. You just think, well, I grew up in an African household, and the only professions were lawyer and doctor, and I was good at science. So it made sense to choose doctor. But actually knowing the implications of being a doctor, I realized, no, this is not for me. And English had always been something that came naturally to me, and writing came naturally to me, but that I thought, no, you can't really make a career of this. But luckily, from having someone tell me and seeing it for myself, I realized, no, medicine is not the path for me. And I'm sure there's a lot of lives that have been saved because of that as well.
I thought that you would say they throw you straight in on the cardiology.
They're like, okay, now resuscitate this person. No, but witnessing it and seeing how potentially I would be I would be responsible for someone's life, that was absolutely terrifying. So I just realized, no, that is not the profession for me. And I think, again, that's another way work experience can work for you.
Yeah, 100%. So. I had no idea, Kim. That's
no, I didn't either.
Yeah, I have a lot of lore.
We've been working together, I didn't know.
Medicine's lost is journalism's gain.
Exactly. But yeah, there's a lot of background. I can drop more in more of these episodes.
Yeah. So don't save it, keep your powder dry.
Yeah. So we're not in MM Unpacked. We're not just unpacking, news stories. We're also unpacking our personal stories as well. Yeah.
I'll bear that in mind.
Yeah.
That could take some time.
But thank you both so much for joining me in this episode, and we look forward to seeing you in future episodes. See you next time. Bye.